Arguably the most important mechanic in Volleyball Legends that is required in order to ascend your gameplay to the next level is none other than Shiftlock. Not only does your skill level skyrocket, but can also be a factor that intimidates the opponents when first analyzing your playstyle, which can put you at a slight advantage. And my job is to allow you guys to master this skill in 1 week's time, which I know doesn't seem like a lot of time, but trust me, if you decide to lock in, will definitely be achievable. So let's get to work on dominating the art of shiftlocking. Before we get into learning, let's first understand why shiftlocking is so important in this game. As most of you know, reaction time is very crucial in volleyball, not to mention the video game itself. And what shiftlock allows for is minimizing the time your opponents get to see where you will spike to by giving them milliseconds to work with. Prior to learning what this was, I used to look at videos and be in total confusion as to how people weren't saving some hits that visually looked extremely easy to receive. But then I observed closer and realized what was really going on. From the shiftlocker's perspective, it almost seems as if nothing is going on, but if you are on the receiving end, that is not the case. Sometimes it makes you wonder what type of strategy the opponents are using due to the speed in which they scored, especially with cards like TSH and Hidari, who are notorious for their powerful spikes. Now that you guys know why, let's get into how this ability can be learned. So first things first, let's get into practice mode. Shiftlocking is when you lock the camera perspective of your character, which for keyboard players is obviously the shift key. Mobile players have the circle shift in the center of their screen, but can be moved around to wherever feels comfortable. And controller players, well, they are able to bind it to whatever button they please, which can all be done in settings. Now, how most people use this is by initially pressing shift and then jumping to wherever the ball is at. So sometimes it can either be a straight jump up or a glided jump to wherever you need to go. Tilts are also used, especially with tilt-dependent styles like Sonyu or Jinko. But that should always be performed after you have successfully jumped to wherever you need to go. Otherwise, you will get a side hop to a direction you most likely don't want to end up in. At first, you will likely mess up the timing by clicking jump before shift or tilting prior to jumping for the ball first, which are very common things to do when first learning this mechanic. But whatever you do, don't get frustrated, because coming from someone who has experienced the pain of learning this, I can tell you that it never leads to a positive outcome. So take your time and enjoy the journey, twin. Now that we're done going through the terms and conditions of shiftlocking, let's go ahead and take a look at how your first day of training will look like. If you were expecting to be flying and hitting crazy clips from day one, I'm sorry to break it to you, but none of that will be taking place here. What we will focus on, however, is basic spiking techniques like cutting and crossing from back and front court. We'll be working with spawn balls, so no teammates first setting will be required for now. Start with 20 straight shots from both sides of the court to get used to what the basic spike looks like. Then relocate to mid-court and start shift locking into the direction contrary to where you are. These are known as cross shots and are extremely useful, especially in a game mode like 1v1. Because since one player isn't able to cover 100% of the court, these hits are great for placing spikes into a location not reachable by them. Once you have done 20 reps on both sides, make your way back to the front of the court, because we will now be learning the infamous skill of cutting. Although it's barely day one, I truly believe learning this from the jump will only benefit you guys in the long run, because even with how intimidating they can look, it's nothing to concern yourself about, because it's really not that hard to master. When you cut, first thing you want to look out for is the positioning of your opponents at hand. Is anyone near the opposing antenna? Do we have any jumpers that are still in the air? Is little Timmy about to steal the spike of a lifetime from your hands? Seriously, sometimes I just wanna... If you are on the clear for a cut shot, then place your character view inside the tiny rectangle and on the side furthest from you, and shift lock right then and there to place your hit exactly on that spot. Then jump and spike the ball. If you want to make your cuts look flashier, shift your view away from the place your hit will end up to give it that extra effect. The faster you go, the better your clips will look, but start slow and gradually ramp up the speed once you start becoming comfortable with cutting. Also, never use back tilt in this scenario, because your hit will probably go out of bounds. Do this on both sides for 20 reps each, and once you have finished, that will be the end of day one. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to do all that 3 more times.
3 more times, bro? Are you crazy? What do you mean 3 more times?
Yes, 3 more times. So drop down and give me 20. Once you have finished, head to a real game and practice shift locking for around 20 minutes. The second you first set foot in a match will make you come to the realization that the flow of practice mode on public servers are vastly different. And that is why I emphasize on the fact that your time shouldn't only be spent on the lab, since it's not a very accurate representation of how games typically go. And that concludes day 1. And 2. I did tell you guys shift locking is about consistency, so don't get mad at the game plan structure. Just follow along and trust the process. I'll see you guys on days 3 and 4. Days 3 and 4 are going to be very similar to the first 2 days, the only difference being that you will now do everything with loose balls. Meaning that you can either set to yourself, or if you're fortunate enough, have someone set to you. The same drills you did prior will also be done here, and other things I need you guys to incorporate on these days is tilting, especially if you have Sanu. It is better to get used to his special ability as soon as possible because it can be tricky at first to get the timing of shifting, jumping, and tilting in that exact order. And once you have done the drills 3 times each, head to a real match for around 20 minutes every day. Only then can we talk about the remaining days. During this time, we will be focusing on gliding with the ball. The reason I didn't want to do this earlier was because I didn't want you guys to get used to leaving your tilt binds pressed down while shift locking. Because as soon as you decide to do straight jump up, your muscle memory will subconsciously make you glide. But thankfully, I gave this a bit of thought and decided to hold off on gliding till now. So head to the middle of the court and pick a side to start off in. If you're alone, then bump the ball to the opposite side and shift lock. Then jump while keeping a hold on the tilt bind that will impulse you into the direction where the ball is headed. Then finally spike the ball and incorporate any tilts necessary to locate your hit on the corners of the court. Do that for 20 reps on each side, and once done, head to backcourt and bump the ball forward, then glide into a spike. Through this session, do a mix of regular shots and cross shots to get the most out of gliding. And finally, diagonal glides are next, which involves you bumping the ball from backcourt to the opposite side forward. This will help you improve in getting a better feel on how to adjust your camera view in order to be able to jump to the correct spot while spiking. And like always, finish the day off with 20 minutes of real game experience. And finally, the day you have all been waiting for, day 7. This will without a doubt be the most challenging day of all because you guys will be doing none other than going over everything you have learned as of now. Yeah, there's really not going to be anything special going on this day, but once y'all are done going over everything, what you can do is try and incorporate shift locking with serves. At this point, a tutorial isn't very needed since everyone should be aware of how to spike a ball while gliding. So once you get a few reps in, another extra thing you can work on is fake spikes, which as the name suggests, involves you doing anything else besides spiking. As a setter, it is always beneficial to stare at the corner of the court even if your intention isn't to spike the ball. The reason this is because you will always have those rare instances where spiking as a setter can actually get you a point due to the opponents almost always expecting a set from you. But only attempt this a few times a game because since a setter's spike resides on the low end when it comes to power, most hits are pretty easy to reach for a player of any level in this game. And once you have gotten comfortable with that, it will now be time to start incorporating abilities into your gameplay. The best advice I can give for this section is to literally just try, man. Get creative and experiment with all abilities possible to get a good feel into how abilities can fit into your gameplay. Now that we've gone over everything I possibly know you can do to master shift lock, all of you should work on honing your skills for this mechanic. All this is just another thing your body's muscle memory has to adjust to, and remember that consistency is crucial when it comes to getting your body acclimated to a new movement. Start slow and gradually progress as you start feeling more comfortable with this style of play, and don't be afraid to take time off because letting go for a while can actually improve your timing. Which I can't really explain why, but weirdly enough, it does work. The time it will take to master this is fully depending on how much effort you decide to put in. So lock in and get to work so you can take your game to the next level. And as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace.